If we could just go around the table and kind of say who we are. And I'll start. I'm Rick Jones. I'm on the Open Space Committee.
Sandra Berry, I'm on Parks and CPC.
Tony Capola, Conservation Commission.
Tim Hawley, Open Space.
Aaron Nelson with Mount Grace Land Conservation Trust.
Jessie Bracco, former Open Space.
Mike Stahl, Public at Large Rep.
Christopher Monroe, Chair of Planning.
Katie Young, Select Board.
Dave Boudreau, Hubbardston Town Administrator.
Chuck Reed, Finance Committee.
Great. Thank you. Tim, why don't you introduce Aaron?
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming down for this. I thought to kick this off, we bring down somebody who's a professional at this sort of thing. This public input's a really important part of the process. So, Aaron Nelson from Mount Grace Land Trust has agreed to come down and talk a little bit about his experience with land conservation. He's a conservation project manager for Mount Grace. He lives in Ashfield, the other side of the Connecticut River, where he is the chair of the Conservation Commission.
Yeah.
So, Aaron, if you wanna just give us a little.
Point of order. Do we have a secretary for this that's taking notes?
I am.
I was trying to figure out how
Are you gonna
detailed
volunteer?
No. I was just trying to figure out how detailed my notes were about to be, so thank you. Thank you, sorry.
No problem.
Well, thank you, Jim, for inviting me in. Yeah, I got roped in as Conservation Commission Chair, and in my town, and I'm grateful to be here because we're actually starting our open space plan update. And I was just at the first meeting the other day, and I'm with a land. I work at a land trust, and I really believe in land conservation. And I was talking about the different partnership opportunities and things like that. And one of the other members, who's a friend of mine, stopped me and said, "That's all great, but we got to make sure that they're working for us. We're not working for them." And I think that is real at the heart of what I see. The open space planning process is us being able to listen to the community and what your goals and what your needs are in terms of open space protection, and that varies from town to town. And at Mount Grace, my current title is Conservation Project Manager, but before that I was the Community Conservation Project Manager, and I work with a lot of municipalities throughout our service region on the projects that they want. And the open space plans are a really critical part of that. Both when we're looking, when landowners approach us, we say, where is it, is it in the OSRP? Is this something that the town wants protected? But also when towns are looking at state grants and other things, OSRPs are really foundational to those. And I would say that's across the spectrum of the land conservation that I do at Mount Grace. We had a project that finished up last year in Warwick, one of the towns out west, that sort of developed over a couple of years of folks on the Conservation Commission, folks in the community coming around talking with Mount Grace, and looking at their OSRP and places that they wanted to protect. And eventually that became a landscape partnership project that protected 700 acres in their town around a really critical watershed. But I also work on things as small as in Royalston right now. They have a parcel that's 1/4 of an acre, but it's right in the downtown of the South Village of Royalston, and they want to make it into a community park, and that was one of their priorities in their OSRP, and that's something else that we're working on. So basically, I think Tim asked me to talk about, how we see the conservation process and OSRPs play into that, and I think really what I want to get across is that we want to hear from all of you on what your priorities are, what your goals are, how you think conservation should happen. And obviously we really support conservation, but I think it's one of the critical ways that we can make sure that we're in line with where communities are looking at conserving land and their future. So yeah, I'm gonna stick around if that's all right, and just hear what you folks have to say, what you're thinking about in terms of land conservation. And I guess if anybody has questions about Mount Grace or what I do, feel free to ask.
Great. Thanks, Aaron. So, there was a couple blurbs we put in the agenda just to underscore kind of what Aaron was saying, but the first paragraph there, again, for folks who might watch this video down the line, I'm just going to read an excerpt of the from the Open Space and Recreation Planners Workbook that we use as the basis for creating open space plans, and because I think it gets right to the heart of things of why we're here today. And the Open Space and Recreation Plan provides an opportunity to confront and manage aspects of the community's growth and development in a way that preserves, protects, and enhances our environment and recreational resources. Through thoughtful planning and active stewardship, Hubbardston's open spaces, quality outdoor recreation facilities, parks, and critical plant and animal habitats remain a part of our community's landscapes. And that's why we're here, to talk about that, to try to put together some thoughts about how we want to proceed with the plan, which will become a very important part of the town's planning process going forward. We started working on, the Open Space Committee started working on the update of this plan last fall, starting out with Mark Kresge and Tim spending a lot of time putting together and updating the information on the town that's required in the plan, updating the town properties, providing new and really nice maps of the open space in town, conservation areas and recreation areas. And so we've gotten to the point now where that's pretty much complete, and now comes the really important part of the open space plan, and that is to determine where we're going to go with it. Doesn't do any good to have a plan and just have it sit in the drawer for the next 7 years. So where we are now, as I said, the last plan was 2018. The current plan actually expired the end of March. And so we're working to get the last part of it put together. And that's, I appreciate all you folks being willing to participate in the process to do that. In order to complete the plan, we need to develop an implementation strategy. And we need to hear from the community. And I think it's nice that this committee here, the ad hoc committee, is made up of people that have, many of whom are long-term residents, some not so long-term, but have had a lot of experience not only in Hubbardston history, but also in land and conservation and recreation for the town. So we have people who have been there, done that. I know a lot of you have already participated in open space plans in the past. So I think you've probably got a pretty good understanding of what we need to accomplish. And our goal with these meetings, we kind of foresee maybe two at least, and maybe 3 meetings, depending on how far we get along on the next meeting, to be the basis for creating the goals and objectives that will be a part of the OSRP, which is required. And as Aaron suggested, not only is it a tool for planning and for the select board and planning board to consider in the plans for the town going forward, but also it's required if we want to apply for any grants. So with that, we'd like to ask you to suspend reality for a little bit and participate in a kind of a brainstorming exercise. And some of you may have done something like this before, if you've been in, especially if you've been in large organizations. So everybody grab one of these and pass them out to me, split them up and go both ways.
We're gonna need a pen.
Yeah.
Tony, you need one too?
Yes,
Pen?
I do.
Okay. Who else needs a pen? No? Okay.
Different colors.
We're right in front of a massive pen closet.
Whatever you got, this is
Thank you.
quite necessary. Yeah. The massive pen closet probably helps.
Yeah.
Let's stand up. So, let's pretend for a minute that you have to,
Jesus.
you have to leave Hubbardston for several years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, for whatever reason. You take a job transfer, you decide to go on a world cruise, you're gonna be on the next SpaceX mission, whatever it is, you're gonna leave town for a while. And so the question is, when you come back, and you will come back, because this is Hubbardston and we all love it, what would you like to see? What would you like to see change from where we are now? So if everybody could spend just a couple minutes and, I guess, put it, you don't have to fill it out 12 things, but if you can get maybe, 3, minimum of 3 and as many as you'd like. And we'll start that as a way to generate some thought and conversation on what we want to see for Hubbardston.
And all contacts are specifically open space.
Right. Whatever you want. What do you want to see? We can,
What am I seeing on Main Street with it being dug up and large concrete pipes going in, and what's that all about?
that's the, I don't know, what do you call that project? The town center
Yeah, the
project?
town center project. It's a 5.5, so over $5 million project they're gonna be doing over the next year to reconstruct all of downtown. It's a state-funded project that people in Hubbardston have been working on for about probably 8 to 10 years at this point. So it did take a lot of lifting by a lot of different residents, and it's just now coming to fruition. There are pictures of the ideas and a time frame of sorts on the town website, or if you want to stop by during the business day, I can print one out for you so you can learn more.
And so is that sewerage I'm seeing, town sewerage I'm seeing going up?
No, unfortunately not.
All right.
No place to go with it.
I'm just gonna stop at 4. That's good enough. Some of mine are very broad.
It's all right. It's all right. We'll get there. All right. You guys done?
Oh, Rick,
I
don't you
thought we
let
were reading
people read
aloud.
off?
Oh.
Read off their stuff?
Yeah, I suppose we could do that.
That way the television audience gets to hear it from the.
Good point.
Who knows, someone might spark an idea with inside someone else.
That's the idea. That's why we're doing this. All right, who wants to start? Nate?
Sure. This is a project that we're actually just starting now to work on that I know is a kind of overarching project and idea, but to use and utilize open and agricultural space as an economic driver.
Put this down, right? Okay.
You said economic and agricultural space?
Use open and agricultural as an economic driver, just to get people here to partake in the use of what is beautiful land that Hubbardston has. Maybe buy an ice cream or something.
Did you go to Caligone Cream as a kid?
I did.
And we don't even have that anymore.
I know.
Isn't that a shame?
There's been no one done.
Do you have anything else, or,
Nope, that's it for now.
okay? Go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, number one, I put down new public safety building.
I tried to stay open space.
Yeah.
No,
Well, he said
Yep.
No.
that's
anything.
fine.
Well, and that's gonna go on a space somewhere.
That's right.
More businesses on Main Street /68, help pay for it.
Okay,
And well-marked trails on all public property. Not just Hubbardston.
who's next?
Well,
I'll go.
I'd,
Oh, go ahead, Tony. You
I'd
go
like to
ahead.
see an industrial area in the town, not on Main Street. I'd like to see us, choose what we put near the center of town. I'm not thrilled to death with, well, the pallet shop's been there a long time and they've been, good people, but, I'm not thrilled to death with the little sheds that we've all put up there. They don't look terrible now, but it isn't gonna take long before they all look like crap, all those storage sheds, and they're almost downtown. Those are the kind of things that I'd like to see change. I'd like to see us keep a rural, center and not have the, well, it's not actually industry, but it is business, and I'd like to see downtown be stores and that type of things. That's it for me right now.
Okay.
I'll
Who
go.
else? Go
So, I would like to see more farm-based businesses. I would also like to see more outdoor recreational businesses. I think those two kinda tie in hand in hand. It goes along with the stuff Nate was talking about that we've been working on. Better maps for all the trails, not just Mount Jefferson and Malone, cause there's lots of trails everywhere, and Cheyenne kinda did one, but I'd like to see better mapping of it all. And I would love to see an actual restaurant. Not that I don't love the diner, the Pizza Palace and Giacomo's, but
Well, by a real restaurant, what do you mean, a McDonald's?
no, no, not a
I'm just
McDonald's.
trying to
Like
clarify.
a sit down, like a little bistro or something, you know,
Okay.
for dinner time.
Like they have in Barry.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. They have a couple options.
Yeah,
They
couple
keep
of
going
them.
out of business.
Yeah, well, that,
I know.
That happens everywhere.
I got
You
some-
ready?
Yeah, I got some here.
We're overzealous, get ready to write.
I
Uh,
saw you copied me.
well, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so running down the list, I would like to see clear and recognized mountain bike access on all trails where it makes sense. I would like to see business growth that makes sense for Hubbardston, and then in parentheses, agro-eco. I would like to see all Hubbardston trails on user generated and defined maps like Trail Forks and all trails, because nobody really uses paper
You
maps
guys
anymore.
talking?
No, but we all, yes, we all do.
Yep. I'd like to see a thoughtful, interconnected trail work across town, and then a thoughtful, interconnected trail work to our neighboring communities. That better leverages the watershed. I would like to see improved cell phone communication so people feel comfortable using those trails. I would like to see microbreweries, because that's what people like after trails. I would like to see a large open space residential hybrid development in the sand pits. I would like to come back to see a viable town center that incorporates trail access specifically into the watershed and other town-owned properties. I would like to see that in some miracle a 2.5 override passed while I was away.
Hang on a second, I'll catch up with you.
He can only write so fast.
And you know when you're caught up.
Hold on, he's at a miracle now.
Okay, I'm caught up.
Okay, then, if I wasn't here, I would wanna see that somebody else pass the agro-ecotourism bylaw package. And then I would like to see that somebody modified our cannabis bylaw so that we didn't have it downtown and it was out on large properties in the periphery instead.
What have you got against the cannabis?
I don't have anything against the cannabis, but I don't fully understand the reasoning why it went into the downtown commercial district. To your earlier point, we shouldn't have pallet shops or storage areas there. We should have service businesses that people wanna go to, like bookshops, maybe a coffee shop, maybe a microbrewery, not a large.
Microbrewery's okay, but the cannabis is not okay?
Yeah, microbreweries,
Because you're a drinker, not a smoker.
No, I have.
Oh, he's a smoker too.
I have no issue against cannabis, and I in fact voted to approve both the permits. But I do see that perhaps in the past, we made a mistake when we said that those should be downtown instead of out on some of these 100-acre parcels away from the residential neighborhoods.
But that's not really downtown. I mean, the pallet shop is kind of downtown. The storage sheds are kind of downtown. The pallet shops, I mean the cannabis places, they're, you know, you've got a farm and then you've got a cannabis grower.
The only major problem is the smell. That we have a lot of
The
complaints.
smell is for 2 weeks of the year.
I'm not disagreeing how long the smell is, it's the amount of complaints that the town receives during those 2 weeks.
And one of the largest complaints was somebody who had 6 plants growing out in the neighbor's yard.
Well,
I think we're probably past the scope
Yeah.
of what's going on here, and you should come to the meeting on May 3rd, because I would very much love to have you come and express your viewpoint.
When is the meeting?
May
3rd.
May 3rd, we scheduled it.
7 o'clock.
Yeah.
A week from tomorrow, right? Yeah.
Already?
Okay, back to this.
And that's
Great.
the end of the list.
Great. Michael?
More preserved land and water. More non-motorized trail connectivity. Environmental and conservation education opportunities. I'll say more. I don't know what we really much have, but intensive collaboration with environmental conservation groups. Identify and leverage right-of-ways for recreation. Right-of-ways easements is an example, either active or inactive railroad grades, the AT&T cable line are just potential ones. And last but not least, a landmark community event for an adventure race.
It's interesting, we just, Jesse Benoit, Boy Scout leader, wanted to have a race, trail race, next month in town, and he did a lot of planning, talked to the DPW, talked to Tim and I. Tim's a runner, he's participated in putting together races and whatnot, so we thought that was a great idea. I'm gonna set up a course on Mount Jeff. Unfortunately, he put out flyers, he did all the due diligence and didn't get a lot of people interested. So he's gonna, I think he may try again later. He thinks maybe he didn't give people enough advance notice, so.
That was that free run, that's not gonna happen as of right now?
It's not gonna happen in May.
Oh, okay.
The Boy Scout
Mhm.
sponsored one. We do have a, what is it?
A running
Medford?
club, the North Medford Club, I think, is second oldest running club in the state. Every year they hold it's an informal race. It's pretty simple, but every year up at Mount Jeff, they hold a 5-kilometer race in June or July. And they hold another one that starts in Templeton but comes down South Road, and this year they're gonna have two. It's gonna come down I think all the way to Williamsville Road and loop around by way of Thompson and back up the hill,
Wow.
back into Templeton.
A hill race.
A hill race, and that one's on roads, that's a road race, the other one is mostly in the woods on the trails. But, you're talking about an adventure event that's more than just running through the woods, right?
Yes, there are ones, they're becoming more and more popular, but typically an adventure triathlon. So you might paddle the rivers or a lake, pond. You would bike of some sort, probably mountain biking, although I've seen some quote-unquote
Yeah.
hybrid bikes do these races. And then some sort of running aspect of it. They're all over the country.
Yeah.
Hubbardston, to me, seems like a good venue, and one of the ways to kick these things off and how many races begin is someone just goes out and starts doing it, and they invite a couple friends, and next thing you know, it's a race.
Yeah.
And we do have, and not the, 5Ks, something that will draw people in, but there is an ultra race that uses part of the Mid-State Trail, and it just nips Hubbardston down there, Old Colony Road and the Ware River. They do a 100-miler, a 50-miler, and maybe a 100K. And I think it varies year to year, and COVID might have affected it a little bit, but it was done 2 years ago. I think I missed it this past fall.
Greenway Challenge is a good local example. They do it down in the Blackstone Valley, although they've been having trouble generating the numbers. But it essentially was put together to promote trail usage in the Blackstone Heritage Corridor.
Trustees of reservations up at in Royalston, Tully Lake, they do an adventure triathlon up there, or I should say did. It didn't occur last year, and I don't know if they're going to bring it back or not.
Yeah, COVID's been hard on
Right.
organized races like that.
There's a Mount Wachusett run, you kind of combine. Over in Barry, they have a, what do they call it, a Tough Mudder, or one of those sort of races. And of course, there's the adventure race in Gardner, the Chair Luge. Tongue in cheek, but
Oh, yeah.
but it's a different event, yes.
There's a race for the beer too, right?
Great. All right.
Thank you, yep, that's mine.
Jesse?
Yeah, it's, I'm hearing a lot of what I've written down already said, which is really nice. I would like to see some of the unsightly areas in town cleaned up, which essentially means our zoning bylaws enforced, which they haven't been. A connected trail work throughout the town, and yes, connecting into other towns if possible. Connecting protected open spaces or using trail easements across private property. More local agriculture. Small businesses that serve the community, like restaurants or little stores that serve the local community. not big box stores or anything like that. And protection of some of the critical environmentally sensitive areas in the gravel pits. I hear a lot of talk about development of the gravel pits. I'd like to see, you know, we've got a major aquifer there, we've got priority habitat there, we've got the headwaters of the Odd River there, feeds into the Snake Pond Well in Gardner, which is a major drinking water supply area. I'd like to see whatever is done in the gravel pits, pay close attention to protecting the critical areas there.
Great, thank you. What do you think? Did you write some?
Oh, I did, and
Well, you're up.
other people expressed most of my ideas much better than I could. So
Okay.
The only other thing I would add to Tony's and other people's ideas for downtown, in addition to restaurants and stores, would be a health center, a doctor's office.
Hmm.
We did have one of those once.
We did.
Dr. Burbank.
See one of those guys that came around in a wagon with,
That was a her.
oh,
It was a
okay.
people's doctor, very good.
Dr. Davis, he's up at Breezy Hills for a while, right?
All right.
So, like a lot of people, I had duplicates of what other people were saying, but a few things that I had different ones I'd like to actually see the town take back the beach. Because there's a lot of complaints from people in town that it's so overcrowded with out-of-towners that people don't even enjoy it anymore, which is really sad. It's our property.
They've shrunk the swimming area
They've
a
shrunk the
lot,
swimming
too.
area, and it's been taken over by the state years ago, and it's just like, there's no more swim lessons, and a lot of people complain
Yeah,
that a lot of
interesting.
out-of-towners are coming and using it, so I'd like to see that. I'd like to see biking trails, nice walking trails like the rail trails, over in Rutland or what have you. I mean, we have nice walking trails here, but they're not really good for biking and stuff like that unless you're a big biker and have great big, mountain bikes and things. I think the biking trails would look nice. I agree, it would be nice to see a winery, a brewery, some small businesses in town, not too much, but a little more, would be nice. And I personally, being a tennis player, I'd love to see a tennis court and a pickleball court
Oh.
in town, so.
That's a good
Wow.
Pickleball is getting
I
big.
like that.
And pickleball's huge. It's just a little more organized play.
Yeah, it's big already,
Yeah.
other places, just
Oh.
not here in Hubbardston.
Yeah. And the other thing too, I think is important is we need to maintain our facilities. We have beautiful facilities and they're falling apart. So.
Well, the only thing I had to add to some of to these, and as Jesse said, I think it's great that there's some commonality to a lot of these. I'd like to see more, what I call accessible trails. Call it an ADA trail, or at least one that conforms to ADA, so people that have mobility issues, whether they be seniors or people with true disabilities or whatever. I don't know that being a senior is a true disability, but some days it is. But have some of our trails more accessible to folks with mobility issues. And that's it.
Well, that's a good add.
Did you write it down?
Oh, yeah.
Write down your own idea.
One more thing that comes to mind is, we seem to have a lot of trouble with kids, adults on ATVs, vehicles. If we had an area maybe where they could use their all-terrain vehicles. We had a death in our sand pit, which was a very unfortunate thing. It would be nice if we had an area where they could use their machines instead of being on other people's private properties.
So that's above us. Like, that's a state legislature issue.
So maybe we have to talk to the state legislature.
Yeah.
Well, why is that above us? I mean,
Because none of us are state legislators.
we couldn't designate an area?
No.
I mean, we used to have go-kart tracks in town and things of that nature. What happened? Laws changed
Lots
since
and
then?
lots of deaths. I understand where you're going, because New Hampshire has beautiful snowmobile and dirt bike and four-wheeler trails, but for 2 years, I worked in the state senate, and different outdoor and enthusiast groups would come in and speak to their legislators, and it fell on deaf ears, in my opinion. But it's not something that we may never see, but it's something that I know isn't right around the corner.
So there's no place in this state that ATVs or no towns?
There is a very short trail in western Mass that is designated for dirt bikes.
There's also, Franklin State Forest, F. Gilbert State Forest, and, there's another one down that way. We
All right,
ride
so
tracks,
then,
bikes.
one way or another, it can't be done. I mean, just a thought, I mean, because there are a lot of problems with ATV vehicles.
What about private? We talked about small business, that would attract people to Hubbardston, bring in some revenue, get the liability, don't make it a public liability, private. The ski area on Mount Wachusett, just change the nature of that, skiing versus four-wheeling, let's call it, and somebody develop that privately.
Well, I mean, those are, I mean, the private part of it I wasn't thinking, but I suppose that's a good idea, and ATVs is something that's happening here and causing problems, and if we could get it all in one or two places, that might solve a lot of problems. Just the thought.
Well, and these are sort of the big ideas.
Yeah.
This is the first, throw it against the wall, see what
See
sticks,
what
write it
sticks.
on
I
the
got
wall,
it.
yeah.
I got it.
Just,
All right. That was great. That was a lot more than I expected to hear. That was fabulous.
can we go home, sir?
No,
Oh.
no. Now, well, you're still in Oz.
We're gonna play another game?
You're trying to tell us
Yes.
it's a dream.
My fingers.
Oh, jeez, one of those things.
I meant to write a new school district, that's good.
So that,
Just, you're
There's
getting
a-
too lofty now.
there's a saying which is kind of borne out when you go on
Is this the
your
same question?
Google Maps or something
No, it's
and
not.
want to get directions to
It's if you
someplace. You
remain-
have to say where you're starting from.
Ooh,
There's
you're
a
right.
No,
old
no
saying that
question.
you can't figure out where you're going if you don't know where you are.
No, this is what you would want to stay the same.
Oh.
The other thing was what you would want to differ.
Yes. Yeah, it's what would you want to be the
Oh,
same?
stay the
Sorry.
same.
So what do we,
No, I'm,
this is what do we have now that we want to keep? What do we value now?
Yeah,
I know the first one right off the top of my head. I got it. See the stars at,
Yeah.
Ooh, dark sky.
yeah.
Hopefully the town center considers that.
so you go away for a
They
few years
super
and you come
consider.
back, what would you like to see that hasn't changed? In other words, what do we like, we want to keep?
Yeah, we actually don't approve a permit unless it has, dark sky compliant fixtures. It's always a condition. It should be in our bylaws.
I don't think it's written.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
just like a,
that's a ridiculous.
no, it's just like an unwritten, that's the policy, cause, yeah, we can't take care of the roads we have, let alone. Spell it right there.
You all ready? Great.
You all set right again, Rick?
Yeah, I'm ready. Somebody,
Well, I already
Shut
read
up.
my first one, so I'm gonna go. So, seeing the stars at night, Rieta. The amount of random farms.
Hang on, what was that?
Rieta.
Rieta
Rieta
Ranch.
Ranch.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
People with farm stands at the end of their driveway that have no problems with the little coin, you know, the little change jars. The rec field. And that when you're driving down the street, everyone waves at each other.
Does that happen now?
Yes, everybody waves at each other.
It does on Lombard Road.
Yep,
Anybody who's been out there.
Does on Route Road.
Does on
Yep.
High Street.
yep, everybody waves. You go to other towns and nobody waves. You come to Hubbardston and everybody waves at you.
Depends what side of the road you live on in my neighborhood.
Well, I don't know about you, I don't know, I drive all over the town and everybody always waves.
Right, go ahead, Nate.
I went with a passionate community, a love for recreation and open space, and volunteers and elected appointed officials who are seeking growth and progress. Hearts there.
Yes.
Like,
Who's next?
I'll go next. So definitely seconding Katie seeing the stars. So that's big. I'd like to see that we stay with minimal forestry on state lands in town. I would like to see the general trend that pilot money's been going up continue. And then continued collaboration between different trail user groups. Because I think we have a pretty good thing going on here with the alliance between essentially all of the groups, hikers, conservationists, equestrians, and mountain bikers. I'd like to see that keep going. I'd like to see state-owned land stay around 43%. I'm not opposed to conservation land, I'm opposed to land leaving local control, where the state can decide to do whatever they want with it. I'd like to see things keep the mostly sylvan aesthetic that we have, and the continued value of open space and recreation by the general populace.
Okay.
I'll go next, even though I hate to ditto Katie on the Starry Starry Night Van Gogh, we'll do it. The library and in general historic structures, small farms, engaged community participation in government, crystal clear cold water streams with native brook trout. That may actually be too late. Maybe I'm just a crappy fisherman in my old
So where are you
age.
finding those?
If you're a kid growing up in Hubbardston, you know where to go.
Supposedly the bird shirt, you can still do it.
Yeah, well,
I have a brook on one of my properties, you can catch them with a net if you're really patient.
Mason Pond, you can, Mason Brook, you can
Yeah,
too, but
yeah, you-
they're not,
yeah.
I know that.
And small local sawmill.
Ain't none of them anymore. Well, yeah, there is one.
Yeah,
There
we
is
got
one.
a
Used to be 3 of them.
You're right, I used to work at 2 of them.
One was a big local farm, right?
Yeah,
Green, here, Green.
Hey, Curtis.
Curtis and
Curtis,
Cisco.
Curtis has the big one.
Yeah, Cisco had a
Cisco had a
decent
good sized one,
operation.
and then there was the one on Williamsville Road.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was Wells or who that was.
Alrighty. Somebody want to shout out?
Yeah, I'll go next. Again, a lot of my stuff has been said, but I'll echo Katie with the dark skies, seeing the stars. I can hardly see them at my house anymore when I look east. They've almost gone, which is sad, because I'm looking at Holden, Mount Wachusett. Yeah, so that's really important, and I hope our bylaws always keep that into account. Our historic buildings, the churches, the buildings downtown, the library, I'd like to see those still well maintained. Our clean rivers and ponds, the great passive recreation opportunities we have in town, and I can't read my own writing. Oh yeah, plenty of passive recreation opportunities in town, and well-maintained active recreation.
Well maintained, I'm sorry.
Active, so active recreation as opposed to passive. You know, passive is like hiking, biking, horseback riding, as opposed to the baseballs or whatever, but I still think that's great to see the active stuff well maintained, as it has been.
Great.
I'd like to see the wild turkeys still out there in the field, running across the road.
Can I expand that to say wildlife? Because I would really miss the
Yeah.
fox and the bobcat that trot through my land every spring.
I'd like to see the state stocking the brooks again like they used to. I don't see them anymore stocking. I'd like to see them stocking the birds in town. I don't see that anymore.
I'm sorry, say again, Tony?
Birds, the pheasant,
Oh.
in town.
I think they do up on, off of High Bridge Road.
Do they?
Oh,
Because
they definitely do, right off here.
my
68.
fields used to be loaded with them. I don't see a pheasant up there anymore.
Yeah, there's
I
always-
just,
There,
they don't.
there may be more concentrated, they're definitely stocking them.
I never see them stock the brook anymore. They used to stock them right at the waterfalls
Right.
on Hillville Road. They don't stock them there anymore.
The numbers and locations have changed, but both the birds and the fish, they're stocking.
Where do they stock the fish in town?
Well, Comet
Comet
Pond
Pond.
has been stocked half a dozen times this year. They
Yeah.
stocked the east
Busy.
branch of the Ware River along 62 and up at Old Colony. They've stocked the Burn Shirt. I just got through checking all this out.
Okay.
And catching stock trout, so it's
Okay.
happening.
Okay, because I just don't see it
It's-
anymore.
Lombard Road, they used to stock 2 streams. They do not stock those anymore. But people want,
What's that?
Get them to take you fishing.
they want big, people apparently want big trout. You can't stock all these small streams with this.
With big
this-
fish.
That I would recommend that the size of the trout and the species of the trout change to be more consistent with what our watershed can hold and whatnot. We're introducing foreign species. I'll get off
Yeah.
Soapbox. my stump.
Santa?
I pretty much said what everyone else did. I'd like to see the historic buildings, be nice if more of them were improved. The open space areas that we have. I'd like to see the roads maintained better, but not enlarged. That's about it.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Well, that's
I
what
still
you,
live off a dirt road.
Yeah, that's
that's
what
what you
we're
wanna
pushing
keep.
for it to stay the
want them
same.
Yeah.
I have to say, since Travis has been in town, Route Road is 100% better than it was. They do a great job. In fact,
They do do a good job.
They just regraded Hubbardston after the spring rains and stuff today. Put down fresh grinding / gravel on it, so, anyway.
I'd like to see dirt roads all over town, like from.
I would like to see dirt roads. We'd save money and slow people down the wildlife.
Sand and asphalt
They're
like
in
the,
better
like the old
condition.
days, we
Well,
oiled them and sanded them.
Like the old days, like the really old days, they were gravel.
All right, Chuck?
And
I don't wanna go
remaining a
back to
farm,
that.
farm community,
But that's
small
They're
town
really
feel,
nice.
and the openness, same. Nothing
And I was a ditto on keeping up the historic buildings in town. And I'd like to see us do everything we can to support the local farms. And I'd like to come back and still see them there. Okay. This last one. Is again a little bit different. And we're gonna step out of Oz for this one a little bit. So, we didn't leave town, we remained in town. What do you think the town really needs, as opposed to, some of the things that we've been blue skying about? I think you got one.
Oh, I got the header sheet?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, maybe you didn't. And I'm guessing there'll be some commonality to some of the things that have already been put on the table here today, but that's okay, because some of those things we really need.
Yes, go ahead. This is where you can go now. Oh, good lord.
The dots. I was just thinking we would do these.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Well, things we want to keep, no? Two? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Katie.
Okay. I'm like
You
all
look very
excited. I know.
anxious.
Let's just get this party started. Alright, so I definitely think we need more money from the state for lands that they own and they hold us kind of in the crosshairs, like DCR land and Ware River watershed lands. Tweaking of some of our zoning bylaws to help encourage smart growth. Definitely a passing of a agro and eco-tourism bylaw. Again, that goes back to encouraging smart growth. And we definitely need some kind of better preemptive maintenance on our town-owned building and facilities. So that way we can stop trying to put out fires and try and prevent them.
Go ahead, Nate.
Alright, it went public safety building. A dedicated facilities director. A override to fix some past failures and economic development success to ensure that it does not need to happen again. A change to the.
Say that one again, I'm sorry.
A 2.5 override followed by economic development success. A change to the state pilot land and water program formulas, and a dedicated Parks and Rec director / program.
Sandra just looked up, she looks interested.
Flower Santa?
Yes.
I've got it in the back of my car.
Santa the flower lady, strictly?
Yes, I know.
Go ahead.
Alright, I'll go next. So we need to do some thoughtful planning of the tax base. We need to keep the tax base in mind when we're suggesting land uses and various projects. We need to increase agro-ecotourism that leverages open space. We need to shift the downtown and downtown adjacent areas to businesses that are more experience-based. So by that I mean not specifically manufacturing, like things that people want to go to as a matter of a destination so they can come and spend money. We need open space planning that works for every resident, and by that I think I refer to number 1, which is to work for every resident and not just the trail users. We need open space planning that manages the tax base. Large increase in pilot money, I think we got that. Fair and reasonable access to all of the state lands and lands owned by other communities within the borders of Hubbardston. We need a long-term sandpit solution. We need an overall shift from reacting to planning. And we need enough volunteers to show up to make all of this stuff happen.
Unless you had a bigger budget and you could hire people to do it.
I don't have any budget.
Well, I'm talking about the town. I'm talking about the town in general.
Volunteer / voters.
Yeah. Full-time planner.
Go ahead, Chuck.
Businesses to bring people in town, new public safety building, more volunteers, well-signed and mapped trails.
Great. Go ahead, Mike.
A multifunctional town building complex that is fiscally constrained design and has multi-use capabilities with a phased approach, so we can financially make it a reality. And rather than calling it a safety building or complex, fire, safety, town offices, and probably senior center capabilities all rolled into one.
We were on our way to that, and now I see a phone tower going up on the land that we were gonna put a senior center and a police station, and whatever happened to that?
I think fiscally it was not feasible, but I'm the new guy, well, I'm the old guy
Yeah, new guy.
and new guy.
There's still plenty
at
of
the
room,
same time.
don't worry.
I was just
There's
gonna
still plenty
say,
of room.
And
yeah,
the antennas for emergency communications.
right, it's part of that
I thought it was a
complex.
Verizon tower.
No, not that
No,
one.
no.
You're thinking the land that's been leased up on Brigham Street
Yeah.
is the cell tower.
Commercial cell tower,
Yeah. What do you got, Jassy?
First I just have to say, the state pays a lot of money to this town. We asked to have it shown in the budget. I believe from DCR collectively between the Division of Water Control and the state forests, and also the city of Fitchburg, the town gets over $475,000 a year, which is never shown in the budget. so people feel like the town doesn't get any money from our open space. We get a lot of money from that town on that, state-owned land, and it doesn't cost the town a dime. So that's a really good income stream for the town, but it's never shown in the budget, and I think it needs to be, as I think other pilot programs need to be shown so people know how much money we're getting from the marijuana businesses, which are supposed to be bringing tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars into town. If they do, that's great, but I'd like to see that broken out. And the solar farms, which I'd like to see how much money comes out of those, but especially I wanna see the misconception that the state doesn't pay its fair share, because they do pay the going tax rate for open land. Anyway, so that's, and now I'll get off my soapbox.
I pushed it over to you.
Well, I hear this all the time, that we don't get money from the state, but we do, we get a lot. I would like to see our existing town-owned buildings well-maintained, especially the library and our town offices. We have a fire station on the corner of High Street that there's never been any maintenance done, really. We need to maintain the buildings that we have. I would like to see a new safety building within reason. You know, not some great big fancy thing, but I do believe our fire department needs a safe place to work at, and what they have right now is in two different places. It's not good.
No, that is good, two different places.
Well,
Well, it's good for a couple of reasons.
maybe two different places in different locations of town, but, yeah, I
All right.
They could use a better facility than they
Yes,
do.
yes, I agree.
But within reason, right? I think some consideration should be given, careful consideration, and limited area to, town sewerage in the historic center and the commercial part of town for two reasons. A lot of the old houses in town are on teeny tiny little lots, which when their septic systems fail, they're not gonna be able to put in a new system, which is really gonna cause problems for them down the road in the form of tight tanks and so on. And also, that makes it difficult for, small businesses that we've talked about, small restaurants, coffee shops, things like that. If there's no town sewerage, it becomes difficult for them to, and maybe even a town well, so that but in a limited area, because if you have too much, it can just open up the town for all sorts of crazy
Then
development.
we've got to put in a sewage treatment plant.
Well, on a limited basis, some sort of consideration to that. I think it's a problem that's gonna happen down the road,
Well,
especially with all
it has to, but.
Yeah.
Having some knowledge about that, I believe that there is new technology that you can pretty much treat on site. Matter of fact, some folks already have them, that you can manage that.
Yeah, there's large, private systems, there's been some fairly large
You'd have
deployments.
package plants,
Yeah.
there's
Littleton.
some solutions. We actually have it pretty good here. I've been in other locations where the situation is much more dire.
Well, you are correct. Down in Hershey, Pennsylvania, there's a lot of restaurants, they have their own sewerage systems. They treat everything right there.
Right
So,
on
yeah,
site,
they're-
yep.
Right on site, yes.
Stone Cow runs on a septic system.
Go to Stiles
Under the
Reservoir in
patio.
Spencer. You see this around highly developed, you think small lots here in town, go around some of these places where they've now put new modern homes and they only have 50 foot of frontage on the water, and there are systems that can do that. It's not easy and it's not cheap,
No.
but it's doable.
Okay, Tony, what you got?
Okay, The town at some point has got to see some heavy industry. It's the only thing I mean, I've been in this town 55 years, and we've talked about industry. I see the surrounding towns that have industry, and it certainly does help the tax base. Someone mentions about getting Proposition 2.5 passed. You can never get it passed in this town. You gotta get some money in somewhere. And I think we have to look, whether it's the sand pits or where it is. We need some heavy industry in this thing. We need some businesses, like I heard before, that are gonna help our tax base. Again, you said a community center. We certainly need something of that nature, a building that can work as an auditorium, as a voting place, so on and so forth. That's for sure. And we need a lot of road repair. I mean, I'm destroying 2 cars in this town. So, okay, that's it for me.
Santa.
Better Wi-Fi.
I was wondering when that was gonna
Yeah.
come up.
I'm surprised it hasn't.
Yeah.
Hard working from home. I
It's on my
agree,
list.
improved roads. It'd be nice to have, like I said, a town budget that you can maintain, whether it's the current buildings, the rec facilities, whatever, without constantly putting a Band-Aid on it, you know, like I said, instead of being reactive, be proactive with this, but how do you get that money? Don't ask me. The other thing I think would be nice is to, you know, maybe to bring small businesses in, as if the town actually backed small businesses, whether town offered grants or something to bring small businesses into town to, you know, like as a startup or something. I just know the town I grew up in Maine, they do that. They have grants and people can apply for them to start a small business in town. I just think that is helpful. That's
This
all.
has been a small town
Okay.
for small businesses. I think I've been in 3 different startups of small business organizations in town. They go along for so long and then they just end. I mean, I don't know why, but small businesses don't seem to go anywhere in this town.
It's a tough business.
Well, I know, I've run a couple of them, so I'm aware.
Yours closed?
Well, we're still
Sorta.
bored, but
Yeah.
we don't group anymore.
Anybody, did I get everybody? Did you?
The one thing I thought, well, 2 things. One, the, some sort of refinement or a better understanding of a way to do Prop 2.5 that would be acceptable to people. And kinda going along with that, I think, is we need more consensus about the budget.
Okay.
Does that mean school? Or
Well, it
just
means the whole budget.
The whole budget, okay.
Rick, can I say one more thing? Can I have one more thing?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, have you?
Go ahead.
No. One thing that I really think we need to do too is, and I just went on my soapbox about DCR money, of which we do get a lot, but I've heard an awful lot of talk about, and I agree with it 100%, I added it. We want an interconnected trail system. Unfortunately, a lot of our open space is owned by DCR Water Division, and they have very strict rules about what they allow and what they don't allow. And in Hubbardston, we have, I think, 1 mile of snowmobile trail, which is on the rail trail. We have maybe 3 or 4 miles of horse trails, which is behind my house because my husband and I made a stink 25 years ago about it when they first tried to close trails. And there's no mountain bike trails, no legal mountain bike trails, and it's wrong. And DCR is coming up with yet another access plan in which they're cutting back yet again on what we can do at Comet Pond. What trails are gonna be allowed open. The town, the residents and the town select board and everyone needs to really make their voices heard at these DCR access meetings, that we need access to this land. They have the land, we need access to it, and they can't keep closing it.
If-
I just want to say that's really important.
Go ahead.
If I may, I think one of this access plan, at least from a mountain bike perspective, is a huge step forward, because it goes from 0 miles to almost 90 miles of recognized mountain bike trail.
I understand, but I was here when you could take mountain bikes anywhere, and they cut them down to 0, and now they've given you back some trails. So yeah, it may be a step forward, but not from what it used to be.
The other step forward is that it recognized the existence of a process to go forward and add additional trails. Because in general, DCR believes they have more trails than they are capable of maintaining. So if there's nobody to go in and maintain the trails, they don't wanna bless them.
Are you
So-
talking water control or state? Because it's
Everything
two
under,
dis-
everything under EEOC.
Well,
So,
it's two different things.
I understand
okay?
that there's the watershed.
And there's two different systems.
Yes, I'm
So-
actually on the Trails Advisory Committee to the Watershed Advisory
Right.
Group. And so is a couple other members of Hubbardston's Open Space Committee. And one of the other the big step forward is also the recognition of the trail, what is the final name that it's going under now? It's not Friends, it's the Trail Advisory Committee it's the Trail Advisory Committee.
No,
The
it's a
watershed-
Ware River Watershed Trail Advisory.
Yeah, the Ware
Right.
River Watershed Trail Advisory Committee,
Yeah.
there we go. Which has now actually stepped in to fill that role as a steward to allay the fears that EEOC has about the surplus trail inventory. And as part of a step forward and a good faith gesture, there's actually a trail weekend on Saturday that's gonna be for rerouting the T8 trail, which will represent the first time that mountain bikers and equestrians have cooperated on a project within the watershed formally, I think, ever.
Forever.
But formally, I know there's been some informal ones, potentially allegedly. So there is a lot of movement, and we need to keep the pressure up, but there have been some absolutely heroic efforts by some of the folks on open space. This gentleman named Brett Russ, who has been,
Trust me, I've been involved with the Ware River Watershed Advisory Committee for over 25 years. My husband was on it for about 25 years, so I agree. Brett has been phenomenal, and the Open Space Committee's been phenomenal, and we need more of that. You know, we need to keep the pressure on, because it's sad to me that there's only 1 mile of snowmobile trail in this town. It's really sad. But, so I hear what you're saying, and I'm glad that that's the case. I also have been around them for a long, long time. Have been
Yeah.
fighting these battles with them for a long, long time. And I know you need to keep the pressure on them, because they
Yep.
say a lot of things, and it doesn't happen.
there's also some more structural changes too, like thanks to a budget amendment from Angobi. Mountain bikers and now the snowmobile clubs have formal seats on the advisory committee, not just the Trails Committee, but the Ware Watershed Advisory
I
Committee.
thought snowmobiles was here.
Did they have one seat or?
They were always on there.
What was the, I'm sorry, I missed the question.
The budgetary amendment from Angobi that added 2 seats to the Watershed Advisory Committee. One of them going to a mountain biker group, and the other one went to a snowmobile group, I thought.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't know.
Well,
I just knew there were 2, but I don't know who they went to.
Just keep the pressure up, that's all I'm saying. I'm glad there's pressure. Keep it up.
All right. Okay. So brainstorming time's over. Now we have to try to distill this a little bit. There's a lot of great ideas. And we need to come up with a way, well, we've got a way to try to figure out what the consensus of the group is on which one of these each of us thinks is more important, I guess, is the way to put it. They're all important, obviously. But with the, different perspectives we have here, I suspect that some are gonna be more important than others. And so what we'd like to ask people to do is pick up some red dots from Tim and go around to these lists. If you need help reading my writing, let me know.
I don't need that many.
And just put a dot next to the ones you think are the most important. And the reason we're doing this is to see if we can get some consensus on what, as a group, we think is the most important items that are on these lists. The ideas that to them as a group are most important. And it's not saying that, when we sit down and start writing the plan that some of the less important ones, according to this group, are not going to be in it, but at least it'll give us a consensus that we can start trying to put words to that we can use in creating the plan. So
are we to put like 2 dots on each, like what we think is?
no, just put a dot.
Well,
Just one?
you can, everybody should have 5 dots.
Yeah,
So, my original thought was we would focus the dots on the first list of what we wanna see in the future.
That's how you come up.
But we got so many other good ideas, I'm not sure we wanna limit it to that.
And a lot of them are duplicated in,
Yeah,
just different words in the 3 lists we have here, so. But let's take a swing at it and see. Just put a dot by, put one of your 5 dots on, you're gonna pick 5 of these things that are most important to you, and we'll see what the spread is.
I'm gonna put number 1, and down I'm gonna put my name too. Just
We're looking for a group consensus here, we're not,
Oh.
doesn't matter who you are, just.
no, I'm doing that so I can remember.
So we may end up with 8 dots on new public building, right?
Right.
All right, we may end up with 8 dots on,
So we can
All
put
kinds of
up
things.
multiple dots.
yeah,
That's
you're
why
gonna
I'm
put up
putting-
5 dots,
Okay.
but not multiple on one
Just
thing.
Oh, gotcha.
So Rick, are we just doing what we want to
No.
see in the future, or we're doing all of them?
Do all of them.
so we got 5 dots between all of these lists?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it doesn't matter whether or
Part-
not it's.
Part of the
Size
open space
space.
plan is to have a vision statement. So the distillation here is to just see where we have the
So,
most
so only one
collective
dot
opinion.
per item, but you can put multiple dots on one sheet.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. and
Okay.
Pick 5, there's, gosh, I don't know, there's gotta be 40, 50 items up here.
Yep.
So, pick the 5 that you think are most important. Let me know if you can't read my writing.
you can't read my own writing, so
Yeah.
if I read yours, better than mine.
This isn't the total, actually, 610.
On what?
I'm having trouble with that.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
kinda hard to
Right.
read it,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
would agree.
Can't read the orange red.
Yeah,
We got
And that.
agricultural space and open spaces, economic drivers, public safety building, businesses on Main Street, well-marked trails everywhere, industrial zone in town, farm business,
You know, as a kid,
outdoor
we used to go
recreation
out
business, maps of all the trails,
Yeah, we could see the Milky Way.
a restaurant,
Clear by
their bike
Jackson.
Kind of my
access,
house.
interconnected
We
trails
don't have a lot of
across
lights back
town.
there, so
Uh,
luckily.
The town
I
is less than
heard-
Yeah, yeah, yeah.